To do is just say thank you for coming today. I appreciate you making space in your day and in your week, and I'm excited at the opportunity to talk to you and share with you a bit about my journey and where that's led me. So let's get started. So I was originally born in North Carolina. I want to give you a bit of a background on me so you have a sense of context of who's speaking to you. So born in North Carolina, when I was 6 years old, my dad got elected to the US Congress. So we moved to Northern Virginia. That's where I grew up. My dad was interested in a couple of things. One was technology. And over the years, he ascended to be chairman of the House Administration Committee. That's the body that oversees, if you want to sell any equipment, hardware to Capitol Hill, you got to be on this approved list. Well, my dad controlled the approved list. So he would bring home computers and things from different vendors for me as a 13, 14-year-old to learn on, which was incredible for me. And I got very excited, very passionate about technology early on, starting in like the late 70s and into the early 80s. One of the vendors that came up to the Hill to pitch Congress was Apple. And so Steve Jobs came up to actually pitch Congress himself. So one day my dad's like, hey, would you like to talk to Steve Jobs? And I have an Apple II Plus in the basement and my head explodes. I'm about 15. And so I get 10 minutes with Steve Jobs. And so my dad had, me prepare some questions and I'm like, yes or no, sir. And what I was struck by was his passion. What I was struck by was I'd never talked to anyone before that had that much passion about what he was doing. And just his knowledge was insane. So that inspired me to want to be a tech entrepreneur. So I started life as a software developer. I moved then to writing books about programming and networking. I wrote some white papers for Microsoft and Novell. And then at some point I got a little bit bored with the programming and I thought, okay, I want to start a company. And so I started a few companies with other people and sold them and they did okay. But the big hit was I was doing some programming work. I was online and working with another guy who happened to be a developer. Well, he had a piece of shareware. This was in 1995. He had a piece of software that he was giving away in the hopes that people on the honor system would pay for it by check, because that was the biggest. In 1995, it was almost impossible to get a merchant account. I had a merchant account because I was selling a newsletter to programmers. So I said to this guy, hey man, why don't we team up? Like I could accept credit cards for your thing. This was the same year PayPal got going. And so it wasn't out really that much yet. So we went from 1,000 in sales, which is what he was doing, to 6,000 in sales in 1 month. And we said, oh my God, we have a company here. All we have to do is just not screw this up. So he quit university. We partnered with a guy from Microsoft that had been in charge of, he'd been product manager for Microsoft Explorer. And he left Microsoft to start a site called winfiles.com, which was the biggest aggregator of shareware at the time. Well, we partnered with them. And so that was all of the marketing we ever needed. We did 200,000 in sales our first year. We did 2 million our second. We were on track to do 10 our third. Then Perry Steiner, the president of Digital River, called us and said, we want to buy you. So we negotiated an exit. And 3 months later, the company was sold for 10 million. I was elated at first. I thought, oh my God, this is the culmination of everything I've been wanting in life. And then it was like this sort of Christmas morning arc where super excited at first. And then as the time went away from that, as the time decayed, it was like, well, shoot, what am I doing in life now? This had been my entire thrust. This has been my entire focus of my life, was building this thing. One of the big drivers for me was I wanted to make my dad proud. Well, he said he was proud. Great. Now what? That didn't resonate as much for me. It didn't give me as much fulfillment as I think I'd hoped it would. And so at that point, I was living in California. Someone introduced me to my coach in San Francisco, and working with her changed my life. I started looking at a couple of different principles. Let's see if we get this up. So one of the things I learned was core belief. That comes from cognitive behavioral psychology. And the whole idea is that we develop some of our most basic foundational thoughts about life in the first 2 years. And so in the first 2 years of our life. And so depending on the dynamic with our mom and dad, that sets the stage for how we're going to go through life until we consciously choose to make a change. And so there's 3 core beliefs in CBT. And the first one is called, I'm not good enough. And that's where the parents there's a sense of achievement in the family. And so you learn that because your older brother did this or the kid down the street got straight A's, you're supposed to perform at that level too. And the problem is that it makes kids think that who they are, love, is dependent on their performance. So 80% of the people I've met have this core belief because it's kind of part of our culture. If you're not achieving, you're not of value. And so I had to take a step back and saying, well, what is my actual purpose in my career? What am I doing this for? What are the things that provide me with fulfillment? The next piece was looking at my thoughts. XYZ is a tool. And the idea is that our thoughts and our beliefs, because thoughts repeated become beliefs, plus our feelings and emotions, our thoughts provide us with a certain feeling. If you think, I'm an amazing entrepreneur, well, God, that feels good. If you say to yourself, I'm a failure, well, that feels horrible. So it's like, what early messages did you get from your parents and from the environment you grew up in? And what thoughts are you carrying with you today? Because your thoughts plus your feelings equals your behavior in the world. And if you don't like that behavior, you can always run it back and look at, well, what's the thought that's the seed of this? Holistic support. Very often as entrepreneurs, as founders, as startup people, we put everything in. And so very often to the neglect of our other relationships. So I look at 7 areas. I look at your physical health. How are you taking care of yourself physically? Because you're living in a body, it needs care. And a lot of entrepreneurs neglect that. So physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And then also let's look at your financial health, your relationship with your career, and then your relationship with others. So that might be partner, children, parents, and friends. And then finally, what is your purpose and vision for your company and for your relationship to your company? In a minute, I'm going to ask you to look at creating a purpose statement for your relationship with your company. And this isn't your company's relationship with the world because it's its own little entity. And of course, it has its own purpose. But this is what's your purpose with your company. Why are you doing the thing? And what's in it for you? So let's look at that a little bit. So for those of you who've logged into the Mentee platform, I wanted to use this to just take a quick poll and see, to what degree are you actually doing what you love today? Between 1 and 10. How purposeful do you feel in the work that you're doing? To what degree are you living your vision? And to what degree are you serving others? Because one of the things that I learned was it's in the service to others that's where all the fulfillment is. That's where all the meaning is. So somebody's loving life.
Thank you for sharing that, Charles. So yeah, everyone, you can kind of see the results come in. If you haven't logged on to Mentee yet, I put it in the chat. All you need to do is click on it and then type in the code, and then it'll take you to that immediate slide. So love seeing these answers so far.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you.
And then Charles is there. I guess I'm sure you'll go into this too. Would love to kind of hear. And actually, I think Amit's got a question first, so I'll let Amit go first on that.
Sorry about the wait there.
All good, man.
No, I love what you said. I agree. I think culture has a big function on society, right? So
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example for myself. I come from Indian background. My parents are from Bangalore, and they always wanted me to go a certain aspect, right? Be a doctor, be a lawyer,
Oh
be
God, yes.
things. And the aspect is that, they compare themselves to someone else. And that ruined
Yep.
actually me growing up.
Yep.
Like, why should I compare myself to a brother who's an investment banker?
Yep. Yep.
He's doing well, but is he happy?
Exactly.
Right? So
Exactly.
there's dimensions to these things, and like we're
Yep.
actually in one dimension right now. Actually, we're
Yeah.
in 2 dimensions, but it's actually our life is dimensionless. If you think about the universe,
Totally agreed.
I'm one of these people that people think I'm crazy, whatnot, and like I'm I'm a Hindu, but Hinduism actually has a lot of value towards society in terms of history, right?
Absolutely.
Backwards, 15, 20,000 years, even the Egyptians, these people, they're all intercorrelated, just like we are. And people don't get that. People don't understand that. I don't want to preach these things to people unless they know that from themselves.
Yep, for sure.
So one of these things that I learned for myself at an early age is that, like, just let people live they want to live. If they
Mhm.
want to come to me, I'll give them my 2 cents. But if they don't like it, leave me alone. Because that's when I ruin my mindset as a human being.
No, totally.
Right. So mentality is everything.
Absolutely. And your culture particularly is very much, and it comes from a good place, but it's very much wanting to encourage the children to achieve. And so one of the things I always tell people, how many of you are parents? Just raise your hand, if you've got kids. So when your children are born, it's one of the most amazing miracles of life, and it's like one of your jobs is to say, oh my God, I love you no matter what, because that's the nature of what that is. Love is infinite. But on the other hand, it's my job to teach you a bunch of things. So I need to teach you to clean your room, brush your teeth, do your homework, all of that. And so sometimes the love piece gets lost in that. And we think, oh shit, I've got to keep doing things in order to keep earning this good stuff. And the truth is, no, you get that for free. We're always increasing our skillfulness in every area possible. That's a lifelong endeavor. But a lot of people didn't get the takeaway that you're loved no matter what. So if we didn't get that as an adult, the opportunity is to start giving ourselves that. And there's some good tools and some structured ways of doing that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's self-awareness for me, as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as a biomedical engineer, as someone that promotes safety and efficacy for human beings to get to the next realm. Right.
Totally.
So I don't mean to keep ranting, but I'll let the next person talk. I apologize.
No, you're good, man. So at this point, let's take a second and create a purpose statement for what your relationship is to your business. And before you hit enter, I want you to think about a couple of things. So think about, what is it that you're in this for? What do you want to get out of this relationship? One of the things that people are often into it is they want to get money. Of course, that's a part of this for everybody. But also, what of your gifts are you giving to the world? What are you doing that really lights you up? Sometimes it's making a difference in the world. Sometimes you want to be acknowledged, which is pretty universal. Think about the things that you need from your startup, from your business. What do you want to get out of this relationship? Does it want to make you proud? Does it want to make you wealthy? Do you want the experience of it? And then also think about, if you had those things, if you had satisfaction, if you had something that was giving you joy, then what does that do for you? Maybe that gives you peace. Maybe that gives you passion. So this is an opportunity to dig deep and think about and feel into, what is it that drives you at your core?
Can I answer again? I apologize. I don't mean to take.
Of course, man. Go for it.
I see Brian laughing. Here's my perspective. Honestly, I love these things because you know what? We have not discovered the atom at all. 99% is not discovered, but also 99% is empty.
Yep.
Let's go vice versa, right? So we are both atoms at the same stage. So where are you based out of right now, if you don't mind me
Right
asking?
now, I'm in Victoria, British Columbia.
So BC, right?
Yep.
BC, you can go up and down, right? You are an atom, you go up and down, and then you go up to the stratosphere, to the atmosphere, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're the same person in terms of atmosphere, regardless of where you are in terms of elevation.
Mm-hmm.
You go, keep higher, keep going higher. We're all dots on a scale for nothing. Correct or no? It makes the same sense because it doesn't make sense, but we don't have to make sense of it. We only make sense of each other as a human beings in a community, right? So if you
Absolutely.
go up and down, uh, atomic level versus space level, beyond space, beyond the Milky Way, right? You got to think like that to actually achieve something a little beyond your imagination. Make something special, right? Make something weird. Be eccentric.
Love it.
The point is that it's always a guessing game. Oh, why are you thinking like this? Why are you who you are? Who cares?
Yep.
I like
No,
it.
it's about being true to you, for sure.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
logic. If am I crazy? Do I know the theory of evolution? No, I'm not Darwin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It exists. It's
So
there.
I would love to just take a second to look into these purpose statements that people are posting.
Sure.
Is that cool? So for someone who said provide a product and service for others that didn't exist before, that's very cool. You know, that's very cool to come up with something novel, to come up with something unique. What I would ask you is, what does that do for you? If you've brought something unique and novel, a product or service that didn't exist in the world, what does that do for you? What does that do for your soul? Why does that get you so excited? Let's look at that. Let's understand that about yourself. Another one, well, I want to build financial security. What feeds me is imparting my experience, knowledge to people who can benefit so that they can be successful and achieve their dreams. I love that. I love that. So that's the service piece. And as an entrepreneur, I haven't found anything that gives me more satisfaction than that. Translate tech build solutions to solve problems. Satisfaction comes in seeing problems solved. Amen. You know, one of the things about masculine energy, it's about problem solving. Here's a problem, I got a solution. And it feels good to provide solutions. And again, bring it back to you. What does this do for you? If you've brought those solutions, does that bring you joy? Does that bring you peace? Let's understand what that does to you. So these are things you've got to think about, but they're also things you've got to feel into. Help others make their ideas come to life through support and connections. Love it. Opening doors for people. That's huge. And again, what does that get you if you've done that, if you've built that? Meet and work with others who want to solve similar problems and tackle challenges. Community is a thing for a lot of people, and connecting with others. Helping build a better world through the creation of great leaders, great systems, and great companies. Love it. Love it. Love it. And that's a wonderful statement. Again, I would ask you to personalize it. Bring it home. Bring it back to you. How does this benefit you? Improving the state of things through business development by creating businesses that serve society and helping others build their own business sustainably with profit along the way. Love it. And again, that one might be something that could even be, a lot of these are very public facing. What I would invite you to do is create something that's just for you so that you know what your absolute drivers are and what's all this for. And then it's also within the context of your other purpose statements for maybe your marriage or being a parent. That's another thing. Someone mentioned leadership, and leadership in business, for those of you who said you were parents, it's kind of another way of parenting. You know, you take responsibility for the development and the growth of your reports. You hold them accountable like a parent would, but you also support like a parent would. So those of you who are already parents have a bit of a leg up on that because you already understand some of the principles involved. So anything, let's see, what else we got here? Transform the culture of leadership in business. Help others make their ideas come to life through support and connections. I mentioned that. Help build a better world through the creation of great leaders, great systems, great companies. Create meaningful connections and mentor young adults on business and general life skills. I'm looking to earn money while helping others. I get a feeling of satisfaction helping others with my experience. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I enjoy and get passionate around ideas and technology that change and improve existing tools or processes. I've never been satisfied in just making money. I want to make positive change. And that's what I'm talking about, because it's like my experience of just making money. And I've talked to some other founders as well. They're going out of their minds to find purpose after that ended. Running a useless farm, riding horses, writing sci-fi comedy novels. I love it. That sounds like a lot of fun. But again, what does that get you? What does that do for you? Does that make you feel adventurous, relaxed, happy, being your true self? To the degree that you're giving your gifts to the world, you'll find satisfaction.
And Charles, I know we've got some time at the end for questions too, but we had a few questions for people that came in that weren't able to make it today. But
yeah,
one of the things that is a good timing for this I wanted to ask is, through your experiences talking with other exited founders, right? People who have gone through that, whether they had an exit at 20 or they had an exit at 70.
Right.
Do you find that once that happens, that's kind of where maybe we'll call it like an existential crisis, but they go through this crisis of, okay, I dedicated these 100-hour weeks for years to this, and now I'm not quite sure what happened? Or is it is age a factor in that, or is it kind of the same, because that's what a lot of founders go through?
I think it's both. I think one thing that founders do is, or at least I did, is you pin everything like life will be amazing once this happens. So it's like a destination kind of situation. And then once you get to the destination, it might not be what you thought it was if you haven't done the work ahead of time. And so most people don't do this work, and they have that existential crisis. The age thing, though, is it depends what sort of season of life you're in. If you're 20, then you might just be excited to hop on the next thing, or also do some soul searching. In your earlier years, you might have more energy. In your later years, you may have more wisdom and more self-awareness. Nevertheless, this is still important work to do. Can I answer any? Yes, sir, Michael.
So being an empty nester with 3 grown children,
yes,
sort of running and gunning as a parent, and soccer and this and that and the college and everything else, when they finally leave the house,
yes,
and they're off your bill, and they're paying their own cell phone bill, there was to me, there was a real gut-wrenching thing of, like, I got nothing to do anymore. So diving into work and stuff, and working 6 days a week. Like, I like working. I'm empty nester. Work Saturdays. I work for a little bit Sundays. Has given me purpose. And my wife, now working at the JCC in a memory care unit, has given her purpose. When we had, most of the people are younger here, but when we had this dearth of, they're out of the house, they don't call. Like, I got to send it to my son once in a while to find out if he's proof of life. Like, please tell me what's going on in you.
Yes.
So happy doing this in Gildre and all the things I do. Just thought I'd share that. There is life after children and everything else. You just have to develop it.
It's funny. One thing I've seen in coaching is when people have to change their identity, it's a big, big deal. Like, I've coached a guy whose father was a professional soccer player, and this guy hurt his back and he couldn't play. He didn't know what to do with life, like really didn't know what to do. And so if you've been a parent for a long time and that's your identity and that's how you give and you serve, when they've matured to where they've left the nest, it's like, well, God, now what? What am I doing? And so it's like, well, then how do you give from your heart? And that's like, I know you've put a lot of this into Gildre, and it's still serving. It's just serving different people, and it's serving from a different place of expertise.
And Cynthia, looks like you've got your hand raised.
Cynthia.
Yeah. So mine was that masculine purpose that you pointed out.
Yes.
And my question is, while building a company and a product, getting the product to market, it's 24/7. how do you, or sort of, is there a phase in which you start working on this exit stuff, or how do you integrate this work, in the 25th hour while you're building?
Right. The answer is you have to make space somewhere. If you think about being a new, do you have kids?
No.
Okay. I don't either. So it's cool. We're together on that. I have a stepson. So, but
I have a cat.
Hey man, we got two.
No, not
But the analogy I was going to say is when you're a new parent, you don't get a lot of sleep because that kid needs all your energy and it needs all your time. And so a lot of parents don't get a ton of sleep because they're putting all that energy into it. And over time, the kid matures to where you're not needing to put as much time in. And hopefully your business matures to where it doesn't need as much of you. You've put some people in to do some of the things so that you can leverage their work. And hopefully that buys you some of your time. And even if you did like an hour a week of this kind of work, it would serve you greatly. And then there's a lot of things where if you did like ask yourself a question on Monday and just let it percolate as you're working, as you're eating, as you're showering, as you're doing everything, in the back of your mind is, what's my purpose? What am I doing this for? And you can take notes. And then on Friday, you could sit down for 15 minutes and say, here are the notes I've taken through the week. Here's what we got, or shameless plug, you work with a coach who walks you through it. And we just take time to sit down and say, okay, let's look at this. You make space is really the answer. And given the maturity that you're at with it, you already know a lot about the business, I would think.
Well, I think you had kind of answered the question. Is there is a phase in which you're not preparing for exit, right? There is a phase in building a company where there isn't only the next hour, but there isn't your cognitive load has to go 100% to the company, right? Totally. But at this point where you really start having next level people that can be trusted, crackerjack tech team is in place.
Yep.
And all of a sudden there are like, whoa, there's a couple extra hours this week where you're really starting to think, okay, now I need to start thinking about, and really in many ways also preparing on the business side for the exit, right? So that.
But it's also like, you could even have a little note, electronic or physical, on your monitor. It's like, this is why I'm doing this. I keep a little Apple stickies on a monitor and a little window that's like, here's my purpose as a coach. This is why I'm doing this, just to remind me. And it may help de-stress some of that time where you're so energetically focused on the tasks, because the tasks can kind of wear you down, but the purpose can inspire you. Oh, right, this is why I'm doing this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Okay, well, let's head to this is pretty much my last slide. So this is your opportunity going forward as a startup founder. Your next steps, in my view, in terms of purpose, looks like, well, let's clarify your purpose. We've made a start here, but when I work with someone one-on-one, it can take multiple sessions to actually nail down your exact purpose, because it's going to span from when you were born through your life, what's influenced you, what's made you think, oh, it'd be great to do this. And then other things you've learned along the way, like, well, I didn't get much satisfaction from that, so that's not part of my purpose. Then the other thing is to vision your future. And so we can look forward. One of the things I do with founders is we do a visioning session. And that's actually a closed eye exercise. You go into a meditative state and we look at what's in your heart. What does it want to show you in terms of what is your creative side tell you about what it wants to see in your future? If you were to wake up in 5 years, what would be your ideal day? And this isn't something your brain has to come up with. This is something your heart already knows. And so it's shutting off your brain from having to analyze everything for a minute and really getting into your heart and saying, okay, what's lighting you up? What's exciting you? What's giving you passion? And besides the future, we can also go into the past and say, what baggage are you dragging along from the past? One of the things that looks like is resentments. If someone's face regularly comes up to you and you're like, you know, I'm so frustrated with this person. And it might be your parents, your partner, a friend, a business associate, someone who ripped you off. If there's resentment that you're carrying with you, then that's going to be a lens that you look through in your business. So you want your glasses to be as clean as possible. And that means eliminating any old resentments, any old stuff that's kind of in your way, so that you can be as clean and as true to who you are as possible. Brian.
Yeah, and so I've got 2 more questions here from others that couldn't make it here. So the next one is, a lot of times when, you know, we as founders have to make pivots, whether it's a business decision, right? The market's not big enough, you know, COVID or some external factor changes.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy, but from a financial and business decision, all right, we know we need to kind of change, right? There's just, it's not feasible to scale. From your experience, what do you see from like a personal standpoint, right? A lot of people go into business, they love what they're doing. 5 years down the line, they hate what they're doing, right? This wasn't the company they envisioned turned out to be. This wasn't the customers they were looking at. Somebody might be successful, right? Might be bringing in 5, 10, 20 million a year, but you just absolutely don't like what you do. How do you kind of approach that? Or how have you seen people approach that? Okay, like, what is the time to walk away? I'm successful now. I'm in a spot where I want it to be financially. I take care of my family, but this is either ruining my mental health, or it's like, I would much rather be painting, right? Or doing something else. How do you see people typically balance that?
So when a big change comes up, you have to kind of dig deep and see, okay, well, what are the foundational principles that are driving me to run this company? And if those don't exist anymore, or if they've changed over time, which they will, then it's looking again at what's my purpose today? Because the purpose statement you created on day one of your company is going to be different because you've changed. You know, we evolve over time, and we've had experiences. We didn't know what it was like running this company. Now we do. And it's not quite what we thought it was going to be. So here's a perfect time to look at, well, what is my role? What does it want to be? What would get me excited today? And maybe that's taking more time off, hiring someone in my position and going and fishing, or some hybrid model. You know, there's a lot of hybrid models that can work. So it's looking at what's driving you now, and having to dig deep, because entrepreneurship pushes you. And that's why I want to make sure people are healthy physically. I want to make sure people are healthy spiritually. If you're facing a big layoff, I've had to coach a number of CEOs this year through laying off a lot of their staff. And it was brutal for the leaders. But if they can start to look at, okay, well, what have I learned through this? Forgive themselves, forgive their customers, forgive everybody, and say, okay, where are we at today? And what's the right size for this organization? What's the right purpose? You know, for me, where am I today?
Perfect. Super helpful. And we're recording this, so everyone will be able to see that. And then the last question I had here was, do you see founders that, you know, do typically spend their entire time, right, building a company that's revolving around them and their co-founders, and, you know, having that maniacal focus? Do you see people that have fulfillment going to then go, you know, work for someone else, right? I know a lot of time founders go into this to have financial freedom, have personal freedom, or whatnot. Do you see founders that end up going from, you know, managing 50 to 100 people and as a Series C Beyond company to then going, you know, to work at an Oracle or an Amazon or something like that?
In the people I've run into and the people I've coached for 20 years, maybe one person, but pretty much once you've had a taste of the freedom that entrepreneurship can provide, I haven't seen people wanting to go back to, you know, unemployment, just job kind of thing. Because what tends to happen is it's some variation of their relationship with a company. So maybe it's not 100%, maybe it's 50% or 70 or 30. but I found it rare for people to go get a job after all this.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, yeah, we've got a few more minutes here. So I know, Charles, you probably got some closing statements, but any other final questions in the meantime? Anyone have anything, you can either unmute, type, or if you have, questions separately, Charles, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Is that through LinkedIn, Slack, email? How do you recommend people reach out?
So probably the easiest is just come to my website and you'll see buttons to set up a call. If you want to email me, it's charles@charlesrose.coach. And I am on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Thanks, Brian.
I just put it
Thank
in
you.
the chat there. So amazing.
But yeah,
well,
at this point, any questions? Like I'm open.
Seems like it was a fruitful event then that answered most of everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, for anyone else, if you have any questions, again, I put the email there. Charles is also on the Slack and the website and everything. Again, thank you. I think this is one of the topics that we don't talk enough about as founders is, what's the purpose that drives us. And I think a lot of us know, or at least when we started, and for some of us that could have been 30 years ago, some of us that could have been 2-3 years ago. How do we kind of keep that vision and that, fuel behind us as we deal with all the roller coaster of no's and struggles and everything else? And so, and then there you go. Trevor's got the,
Thanks,
so I think it's super important, things that we want to continue to talk about during our future innovation roundtables, such as founder firesides. But, I know me personally, that's something that I've tended to overlook as we've had this maniacal focus on, putting out the best product and services that, many times as founders, we neglect our own health. And, as a lot of founders will always ask, hey, I'm raising my first round. Should I pay myself a salary, right? Like, I don't want to use VC money to do that. And it's kind of the same approach, right? You don't need to give yourself an egregious, CEO salary that we're seeing these days. But if you're not happy and you have to stress out about food bills and your mortgage or your rent as a founder, you're not going to be able to lead your company. And so I think, Charles, all the work you do and taking that personal approach is just super helpful. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Brian. And thanks, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Amazing. All right. Well, take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days, and we'll talk here soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. Great to see you, man. Whoop, you're muted, man.
Went well, sir.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that.
We continue to build. Maniacal about this. Brian works 90 hours a week between everything.
God, I see that. Yeah.
I'm probably 40 to 50 or something the older I get, maybe as I head towards like the final solution, whatever that is, the more intellectual curiosity and the hungrier I sort of get. And I have a lot of friends that are retired already, and I call them previously important people. They are just brain dead. They're on the golf course. They know nothing about AI or anything, and maybe they don't care.
Right.
And, I watched my grandfather. Maybe you're old enough. Are you on what coast are you on? Where are you?
I'm on the West Coast, but I grew up on the East Coast.
So do you remember the name Sam Goodies, the record store?
God, yes, of course.
Okay, so that was my grandpa.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so he had 20, 30 stores, tri-state area, New York, whatever. I grew up, like going into the 49th Street store. He was just, fucking, he was like a Tom Carvel. He's just fucking,
oh my God,
crazy ass marketing stuff. And he had two sons. One went to college, one didn't. And they were sort of fighting over who'd run it. And they just, neither one was able to sort of run it the way he ran it, because he just, just like, I call it like demon focus or something.
Yeah.
And, I always thought that the 10 or 12 cousins would take it over. And then he sold it for like a pittance to American Can, not a fit, sold his name to,
man.
And he thought he'd go retire and go paint. And he was dead. Like, how long did it take? Like,
oh my God.
Can't stop grinding or working. So like, I have a friend, his truck driver, his dad was just, I helped him the whole time, get take control and do stuff. And he recently passed away. And you're like, I'm thinking of going back to truck driving. I'm like, what are you, out of your fucking mind? I said, Dad just now passed the biggest day to you. I said, do yourself a favor, go to Trader Joe's, go to Whole Foods, go to Home Depot, start working with some young people, get out there, go to the church, the synagogue, get out there. Don't go back to driving a truck and having a heart attack or something.
There you go.
So I believe in grinding till the end. My mother, who's upstairs at 87, she's volunteered on the rescue squad for over 50 years. She doesn't ride anymore because she's just too old to ride and lift the gurney and stuff. But she does their paperwork. She's in that the rescue squad 2 or 3 days a week doing paperwork and coming back.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I am a firm believer in sort of just, you know, continuing to work your whole life, hopefully transition one day or something. I don't know, but working with Brian and Tiger, like Brian in particular, Tiger's a good worker, but Brian's just, you know, insane.
Oh yeah, I see that. I see that.
So I like doing that, and I'm part of a fund with another millennial. We've done 7 investments. We're having trouble finding, you know, limited partners, but we're investing in brain health startups, neurodevelopment, neurodegenerative.
Oh, cool.
We have huge returns, but so far we haven't hit like the sort of the radar of people. But I like doing it. Like, you know, what more do I have? Like
Yeah.
I found myself at a certain point after I sold my company, the Night of Public Company, coming home and I was coaching the kids, but like you wake up and you're still in your pajamas, unshaven, and like that's fucking really, really bad for you.
Yeah.
This was great. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it.
If I ever can be of help or anything or whatever here, thank you for being a mentor at Gildre. We're really starting to make some inroads now.
That's
Starting
awesome.
to get bigger. We're starting to, you know, we're starting to get, you know, on people's radar.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have that 7-week course, you know, do the 7-week course with the 14 different modules.
Yes.
So we just keep adding, and you know,
I love it.
next stop is, I guess, 500 people on the platform, and maybe start doing some more maybe in-person stuff on the, you know,
Sure.
in Boston, New York, Austin, Chicago, San Fran,
Totally.
that kind of thing. Maybe we'll find ambassadors out there and stuff like that. So we'll go from there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, great to see you.
Pleasure. Have a great day. Thanks for
You
your time.
too, Michael. Take care.